So rocking and rolling right off the bat with Escape. You Demonistic, you want to talk a little bit about Escape?
Absolutely. So early on in the game, our runners do not have the boots, and the boots are the fastest way to go around Hyrule by far. There's only one pair of them in Hyrule, so that Taylor's doing pretty well, apparently. But in lieu of these boots, what our learners are going to try to opt to do is they're going to try to do something called pumping. This allows us to optimize the movement while in the overworld in particular, also throughout water and anywhere else that we can slow down. As far as pumping goes, when you're moving north and west in the cardinal directions, Link actually starts his walking animation at 2 pixels per second and alternates between that and 1, averaging about 1.5. But if you can mash other directions at the same time, you can reset that walking animation, saving frames every time you try it.
Fantastic explanation. It does really help out with your movement, specifically when you don't have the boots, but more importantly in the few water rooms coming up here towards the back half of Escape.
Another thing that our runners are going to be looking to doing to try to optimize their movement is they're going to look to make as few nudges as possible against surfaces. You'll see anytime that they collide with any sort of object that has collision and they're moving in a direction past it, if they are not lined up alongside it, they will actually lose a little bit of time, a couple frames, every time they have to nudge around it to move forward.
Yeah, both these players really looking for a good time in Escape. Right around 6 minutes or sub 6 minutes is a fantastic time for getting out of here.
As for RNG early on in the game, there's not a whole lot of it. The enemies spawn, for the most part, pretty much at identical locations. Their behavior does have some impact on what the guards do in response, but for the most part, the RNG is just going to be the movements that they have when they enter the room. SuperNinTaylor doing all right through his first guard room. SuperPlayer had perfect RNG. There are a few different ways that you can deal with this guard here in the basement. Most people opt for a poke and a spin slash, but both of our runners seem to have gotten through just fine. The ideal way to handle it is you want to knock that guard closer to the door so you can collect the key before you open it, well, right as you walk into the door. One lesser known thing about these guards here in this room that Taylor's in is that if you walk a little bit higher up while you're underneath that bridge, the guards never even notice you. So Fricker, do you mind explaining to the audience why it is that we don't have our lamp yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So the lamp can actually be in one of 3 different locations. The first, you did see both of our players skip. That was in Link's house. But more importantly, the chest that they want to get the lamp in is actually in where the ball and chain guard is, where they rescue the princess, because it's a little bit faster for them to grab the lamp out of that chest. But the game does place it in 3 different locations, so it really wants you not to forget it. But more importantly, if you do happen to forget it, you won't be able to push the mantle with Zelda towards the top of the room in Hyrule Castle in the main lobby.
Our runners opted to take different strats with the ball and chain guard. SuperNinTaylor elected for 8 regular slashes, and SuperPlayer opted to throw a pot. Unfortunately, took a couple of hits, so opted to use the boomerang that we just acquired to get a little bit of stun safety there. As we climb back up these stairs, you'll also notice that the first input that these players do is to the left or to the right. This helps to prevent, I believe it's 22 frames of stair lag. When you're moving down or up out of the automatic staircase, you actually stutter step a little bit, and this saves them some time if they face left or right, leaving those staircases.
Yeah, that's correct. You always want to go left or right out of spiral staircases to reduce that stair lag. Helps you get a lot better time in Escape, which is really important because you don't have the boots yet.
NinTaylor got pretty good RNG through that room. SuperPlayer also having a little bit of trouble with the blue guard on the way back up. With half a heart, there is a safety heart that he can pick up on the way through here. We'll see if he picks it up. And picks up both. Nice. Despite a couple of hiccups, both of these players are moving through escape pretty quickly.
Yeah, through the back half of escape here, really important part is just RNG reaction to the snakes and the rats, but Super getting a little bit bad snake RNG. But that really helps your times being able to react to what type of RNG you get through these last few rooms.
Between those snakes and the rat that has the key, we like to call him Key Rat, those are the two biggest forms of RNG that we're going to face here. But you're going to see NMG here pull off a little bit of pumping to go through that water a little faster.
See what kind of Key Rat NMG gets here. Ooh, that's a great Key Rat.
He's probably pretty pumped about that.
I always get the Northwest Key Rat for some reason.
Every single time.
Only when you're having a good escape time, right?
Only and if only. Going into the last room before Sanctuary, SuperNinTaylor is going to show us a brief little skip here. You can skip one text box by facing right immediately as you leave that room. You can also grab this switch a little bit from the left of it. Doing so saves a few extra frames, but that text box, if it catches you off guard, sometimes you forget to mash.
Looks like NMG got about a 5:59 escape. Really good time for him.
Now, this being a race setting, it's pretty likely that both of our runners will pick up the Sanctuary Heart, although you never know.
One quick thing to add too, as NMG exited out of there, is he only had one heart, so he did save a few frames. I don't know the exact explanation, but I think it may have to do with the beeping sound and the talking scene with the old man, but he did save some frames for having less hearts there.
I'm not 1000% certain on the technical explanation, but I believe it's something similar to how red bar works when you're doing a Pokemon speed run. Simply put, the NAS only has, or the Super Nintendo only has so many channels available to spend basically playing sounds, and so you can skip some audio that would normally take longer to play out. If there's a cutscene trigger, for example, that happens after an audio has finished playing, then that would save you frames.
NMG having a decent Octorok RNG heading over to Eastern.
This is a really great place to showcase the pumping. You can see that NMG here seems to be moving a little bit faster on the stairs than just simply walking. By using the staircases, which have walls on both sides, you can actually pump both left and right on your way up, and this allows you to be pretty much twice as fast at that trick. If you do it very well, you can avoid this blue guard up here and not even have to boomerang him at all.
It's always nice when you get to skip that blue guard.
And now we have both of our runners heading into their first dungeon. Eastern Palace here has pretty straightforward execution. They're looking to just get through as cleanly with as few hits as possible. There's a couple of tricks coming up. You want to explain the skeleton trick?
Yeah, absolutely. The skeleton room coming up here on the left side for NMG. There's a specific way to avoid some of the hitboxes and direct path that you take in that room. If you do take it directly, you're able to kill 2 of the skeletons before they spawn. You can also get through that room without spawning an additional 2 skeletons. So you can actually do that room a lot faster. And also Super picking up a quick magic pot that will save him a few frames in the ending cutscene after Armos.
One thing that a lot of people who don't run this game very often wouldn't know is that, you actually get a full magic refill and a full health refill at the end of a boss. So even if you have, say, like nearly perfect optimal strats, you will actually you'll lose a little bit of time just refilling that. NMG was able to pick up that magic pot without any real time loss, so that's going to save a few frames, exactly like you were saying, Fricker.
Looks like SuperPlayer had a similar skeleton room as well too. Nicely done.
We are approaching our first damage boost of the run. You'll see this on SuperNinTaylor's screen first. What we're going to do is when we're in this big key room that we're approaching, we need to pick up a pot and hit a switch that's underneath some anti-fairies. Normally you can't do this, but if we take advantage of invincibility frames and the collision detection, we can knock off that switch and get the big key without killing all the enemies in the room, which would normally release these anti-fairies. And then Taylor did a really good job of it there.
It also looks like both of our players did go for the safety arrows on the right side toward the beginning of the dungeon here. They did not choose to take that gamble.
And of course, the room before Armos does have plenty of extra arrows if they do have some kind of major mishap, although you generally don't use a ton of arrows before you get there anyway.
SuperPlayer having to take an extra heart of damage from those anti-fairies to get on the switch.
Heading upstairs, we have a couple of rooms that are pretty straightforward, and then one of the most RNG rooms of the entire dungeon, the Zelda Gamer Room. We'll have a bunch of cannonballs shooting across various directions to see how he handles it.
Yeah, that Zelda Gamer Room is probably one of my favorite rooms in this dungeon.
Clean kill the Igors, and let's see how Armos goes.
It's a nice, almost quick kill by NMG here. SuperPlayer got to be a little bit careful going into these last few rooms in the boss, as he does have one heart, but he does pick up the safety heart in the left pot. Also, one quick thing to note here about NMG, he does not have any rupees at the moment. I believe he does go for tree rupees, so he's going to have to be a little bit careful on the rest of his path here to see if he can pick up some extra rupees along the way.
The reason that we worry so much about these rupees is that when we get to Palace of Darkness in a couple of dungeons, we're going to need 110 of them in order to first bribe the monkey Kiki, and then have Kiki open the door to the dungeon for another 100. Without those, our runners will be in a very tough spot. So getting the rupees throughout the route, the riskier strategy being the tree rupees that SuperNinTaylor's doing, and we'll see if SuperPlayer does the same exact thing, but instead of getting the ones in the back of Sahasrah's hut, they'll have to be very mindful of how much they picked up.
Also, SuperPlayer having a nice quick kill on Armos. Let's see if SuperPlayer, after he gets his boots, if he decides to go in the back there to pick up the 2 rupee chests and the bomb.
The movement between dungeons that we're seeing for SuperNinTaylor, and we'll see it also with SuperPlayer on his way to Desert, is very highly optimized. They're planning exact pixels. They're trying to land on exact, Y coordinates on these screens so they can have very efficient dashes. We're going to see our first spin speed outside of Eastern Palace here with SuperNinTaylor. There was one right after they left Sahasrah's hut. You'll see SuperPlayer do that in a moment. And we did actually pick up the safety rubies behind Sahasrah, so SuperPlayer is not trying to mess around with all that.
It looks like NMG did get both of those spin speeds to and from the library there. Specifically, how to do spin speed. It just puts you in a state where you can actually dash, but you're actually walking the entire time. All you got to do is just hold out your sword and release your spin. And 1 frame after your spin, you just have to hit A or the dash button. And if you get that, you're not able to use your sword afterwards, but you're also able to get dash speed as you're walking. So it does save quite a few seconds throughout the entirety of the run.
It's very easy to cancel the glitch as well. You just have to start another dash, so it's very easy to use. It's easy to test with that sword check. So it's very reliable. As soon as you've done it, good 20 or 30 times, you're pretty reliable at doing it in general. We get to see SuperNinTaylor there use a pause screen to switch to the book. You can use that to line up your next dash as well, which he used to great effect there.
Yeah, pause buffing to items and using visual cues is such a giant part of this speedrun. It really helps you out.
Desert Palace that we're walking into now is pretty much just a collectathon. We're going to do a couple of laps through this dungeon. This is one of the places where if I could have the mirror early, this is where I'd want it the most.
I think NMG using the dash poke strat against the sand monster there. Fantastic job. I know that can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, I never actually get that. We will get an opportunity to see some RNG in the room following this one. There will be a bunch of cannonballs shooting from the wall. We'll see if he can just do the blind dash.
Good RNG reaction on the cannonball room from NMG there.
Yeah, not only does taking damage there, you know, kind of throw you off your path, you also have to charge up another dash, and if you were going to do it in 2 dashes and now it takes 4, I mean, all these things do add up very quickly over the run. You can see already there's a significant gap between our runners who haven't really had, like, you know, major problems. They haven't died, they haven't, you know, forgotten their route or anything. Just little movement technology or tech like that.
It's like NMG opted to take that extra 5 rupee under that pot there. He did notice he was fairly low on rupees. See if NMG opts to go for Desert Spin Speed 2 here. That can be a little scary going for that, especially in a tournament setting.
This would be another example of where you could use a pause buffer to make it a little more safe.
It's a very good spin speed from NMG there.
Only a little bit of minor clench in the comms over here.
Yeah, if you end up messing that up, it's not a good day. You will lose a lot of time because in that spin speed state, there is no hesitation on jumping off a ledge, so you will fly right off there and then have to use the book and open the dungeon to restart it again.
So while the first and second half of Desert Palace are relatively straightforward, we're not going to see too many things that really throw our runners off. Lammolis, however, is an entirely different beast. As far as the optimal strategy for fighting this boss, do you have any explanation for that, Fricker?
For the land modes, it's really about RNG reaction. I think that's the most important part of this. They're going to try to kill this boss with arrows. Each one of the land molas takes 4 arrows to kill. And somewhere for these runners, I'd say between like 4 or 5 or so cycles is a really good run.
And Taylor had a really good first cycle. One of the reasons that it matters so much that our runners don't miss their arrows is that you actually cannot fire another arrow until that first arrow collides. So if you're trying to fight 3 of these things at once and one arrow just sails wide, you know, past, you're pretty much stuck to sword slashes until it hits.
Nice fight from NMG there. I think he went with the sword. He really wanted to save those arrows coming up for Agate Tower in a little bit.
And of course, as well, Palace of Darkness. It's very easy to forget that you only have a small handful of arrows left after this fight, but it speaks to the experience of these runners that they both carried in enough arrows to do this boss as well as handle Agate Tower.
Yeah, absolutely. SuperPlayer going into the Landmo fight. Let's see how he does. A nice Sandman dash by NMG there. NMG's making his way over to do what we call fake flippers. Did you want to explain how that works?
Absolutely. So fake flippers, the game we don't have flippers yet, so the game, whenever you jump into the water, will pop you right back out. But if you make a screen transition on the exact next frame after you jump in, the game doesn't really detect that you're in the water yet, and now that you're swimming and you've made a screen transition, the game is like, well, okay, I guess you're actually swimming. And so if you do that, you can basically swim without flippers. There's not a whole lot of places that you can set it up, but that's the only one that's useful for us here. We save about 6 to 8 seconds on average overworld movement by doing that fake flipper to the whirlpool. There is one big gamble you make, though. If you take any damage while in fake flipper state, your game is pretty much unrecoverable. If you press any input, you'll actually lose complete control over Link, and it's soft locked. In this tournament, in the group stages, we're allowed to save and quit and return to Link's house from that, but after that, in the single elimination stage, we're not going to be able to do that at all.
Let's see if SuperPlayer opts to go to the fake flipper route as well.
Also, sorry for talking over you, SuperPlayer. Your Lambo fight was good.
He did come out of land mode there with a healthy set of arrows, and it is look like he's going to the north here, the more traditional route.
While there's not a lot of runners out there who are running 1.1 and 1.2, this would be the route that they would have to go. Fake Flippers was patched in 1.1. We did get a really great opportunity to see spin speed here out of SuperNinTaylor. We'll see if he goes for the quick warp. Very nice, and he got it. Are you familiar with quick warps, Fricker?
Yeah, there's quite a few quick warps in this game. I believe there are on a horizontal line of pixels. Within the 8, there are 2 pixels that do work for quick warping, and what quick warping does is it gives you a quicker transition at the end of the quick warp, which actually saves you right around 32 frames. So being able to do that quite a few times within the run is really going to help out their time.
Yep, and it's based on the camera position. So as long as you can get that lineup every time, it's basically free. You just got to know it's there.
Also, one thing to note too, NinTaylor did make a great round up to the mountain there with really good RNG. You can really get stuck in a loop, getting blocked by the squirrels or hit by the rocks, and then end up having to enter Hera with 1 or 2 hearts, which can put you in a real sticky situation.
Oh, we almost got a really nice boom dash out of this too. For what it's worth, I mean, he got all the right inputs. He did the boom dash. Unfortunately, he dashed just past the peg. So if you're actually standing on the peg when it raises up, the game doesn't really like that. It basically treats Link as if he's in constant invincibility frames. And you can basically just sit there and wait for all these tiles to go through. It's a timed room, so you just gotta... The only thing you can really do to make it go faster is to kill the last tile before it collides with you.
It looks like SuperPlayer had a little unfortunate RNG with the squirrels and the falling boulders going up Death Mountain here, so he is going to be entering Hera with 2 hearts.
This is a bit of a risk, not having a lot of health walking into Hera. There's a lot of places early on in the first few rooms that can do an easy heart of damage. Not only that, but our runners are going to want to have at least 1 heart so they can do the bomb jump coming up.
Looks like SuperNinTaylor did not get the optimal strat for Beetles, which can be pretty hard at times, but he did have a good backup there.
He is taking an extra heart of damage walking into the basement, and I wonder if he gets into a jam, if he's just going to accept the death so that he can get a refill of health.
Yeah, doing tile room in the room after with the 3 Moldorms can be really scary with 1 heart.
NinTaylor did manage to get the bomb jump first try. There's a couple different setups you can do for it. The most popular one is to dash against the wall right next to the bomb. You have a 6 pixel window that you can place the bomb, or that you can be in once you've placed the bomb, that'll allow you to still bonk over. Otherwise, you have like a 2 pixel window to place Link and the bomb to just do the bomb jump without dashing.
And NinTaylor had a great bumper skip earlier. I believe that's a 4 pixel window. But let's see, hopefully Moldorm gives him some good RNG here. He's not too much of a bully.
Just 1 more.
Ooh, SuperPlayer taking an unfortunate death before getting the big key. That will cost him some time as he has to re-go through tile room.
He may have an opportunity to catch up a bit, though. SuperNinTaylor did fall to Moldorm on the last hit, which is unfortunate. With Moldorm, whether he's in his enraged phase for the last hit or not, he can knock you very far off the platform. So the key here is to just keep your sword in front of him, really.
A really good strat to use, too, is you can always hold your sword out and back up to an edge, and making sure that you hold away from the edge. Moldorm will not be able to knock you off.
I find that's what I do in the last hit every single time. I just hide in the corner and hope that he walks into my sword.
Yeah, he goes crazy on that last phase, so that's always a safe strat to use.
The hitbox is pretty wonky too, so if you want to try his spin slash, if you have good timing, you can get it from pretty far away.
Nice 1 heart kill by NinTaylor. Shout out to the Sank Heart.
With that, SuperPlayer has made his way back to the big key room. Now that we have 2 hearts, we should have a little bit of an easier time, hopefully pulling off that bomb jump as well. Now that SuperNinTaylor has all 3 of his pendants, he's heading over to the Master Sword. We have a very fast little route we take here. This would be another opportunity to talk about the Tree Rupee route. Enemies, when you kill them, they have a certain chance of dropping certain items. We call it a prize pack. The number of enemies that you kill without taking damage has an impact on that. In this case, we're going to want to pull the tree to reset the prize pack. We're going to kill 4 enemies without taking damage, and then the next tree that he pulls will have, instead of the 4 blue rupees we see here, it'll have 4 red rupees, and this will get him to where he needs to be for Palace of Darkness.
All right, SuperPlayer making his way to the bomb jump for the big chest. We'll see what strategy he uses here. And he gets it with the bonk strategy. Nicely done, SuperPlayer.
The bonk strategy is considerably safer. It's just you do have to remember to wait a second before you start that bonk, because it's very easy to finish the bonk and then not actually go all the way across with the jump.
NMG with the sub 26 Master Sword pulse. Pretty good time for him.
Yes, if this was a Master Sword run, he would be finishing up right there. That's also a very popular run in the community. A lot of the RNG that you get from some of the later bosses, particularly even just Aghanim, the next boss, are big factors in what people end up with for their final time. A Master Sword run is a little bit more execution heavy. You have Lamolus is probably the worst part about it. I think Moldorm's probably a little easier to deal with in comparison for your time. But that's a very common popular category that you may be interested in if you like no major glitches.
It's like NMG missed that dash on the bird they're going to retry here, and he does get it. That dash can be hard. I know just, when I was learning that dash, there's a lot of visual cues that help with that setup, so nice job to NMG there.
It's important to dash kill certain enemies too, because it can have a direct impact on the prize packs. Different enemy types are in different prize packs, but it's important that they kill at least 4. If you do a dash through an enemy, it doesn't increment that counter at all. So there will be a lot of selective kills that will be done. We'll probably see a couple in Aghanim's Tower, actually, that are with that exact strategy in mind. This will actually hopefully preserve a fairy for use in Turtle Rock right before the Chain Chomp room, which is a really great opportunity to have one.
All right, well, NMG makes his way to Aga Tower. SuperPlayer is now making his way to pick up the Master Sword. Does look like NMG does have a healthy supply of arrows here, so we're likely going to see the Pooey Strat on the Golden Knights coming up in this room.
And just like all of the other rooms in this game, there's lots of different strategies you can take. When you have a surplus of arrows in this room and you have full health, you can do a spin, an arrow, and a spin and a regular slash, sword beam, to kill these enemies a lot faster. Otherwise, you would do a spin slash while getting them to come a little closer to each other.
And Taylor in a little bit of a pickle here with the fairy guards. He wants to make sure to dash kill them, but he does not. But he does not get the fairy drop, which is really good for NMG. So that fairy will be saved, hopefully, until T-Rock.
And there is still a chance that he can get the fairy. It's a lot less likely.
Yeah, the mini Helmosaurs in Pod do have a chance to drop that. They are in the same prize pack.
When it comes to this dark maze room, there's a couple of different things that our runners want to be doing. They want to avoid alerting the guards at all. There is a way to get through that entire room without ever causing an alert. Those are the biggest time losses in that maze. Besides not knowing the maze, I've done that a few times myself just recently.
Yeah, there's a lot of rooms in Aga Tower that can be very hard to optimize. I know we have seen quite a few key dashes here, one in Aga's Tower as well as a few in Desert. Did you want to explain what a key dash is?
I was just thinking about it. So Link's movement, the alignment with Link and doors, it all has to do with collision detection. So the game detects Link's position in any collision with objects every 4 pixels. and in increments of 4 pixels. Most objects are also lined up in that kind of coordinate grid. So if you want to dash through a door, you can actually open the door and dash through it on the same frame, as long as you're lined up with that grid. Most pots, for example, or torches will be lined this way, and as long as you're in that position, you'll just dash right through, you don't bonk on the door. Hitting the 30-minute mark, SuperNinTaylor is ascending to Aghanim, unfortunately taking a couple of falls here in this room.
Yeah, that guard up there can be a bully.
He's doing his job very well, though.
One thing I did notice from NinTaylor, he did cancel his dash before that staircase, which does reduce stair lag once you get off of it. So how many blue balls do you think NinTaylor is going to get here in this fight?
I hate to be the one who cursed him. I'm going to guess 4.
I'm going to say he's getting 2.
I lucked out getting 2 myself yesterday, so you know what? I endorse that. I'm hoping for 2, but I'm going to guess 4.
SuperPlayer with a nice golden Knights room and does kill both of those Fair Knights without getting that drop.
As for the Aghanim fight, for how this whole thing works, Aghanim here attacks in a cycle of 5 attacks. The first is always a yellow ball. The second, third, and fourth have a 50-50 coin flip chance of being a blue ball. We've had 2 so far in this first cycle. And the 5th attack that you're seeing now is a lightning attack that you cannot reflect. So in the worst possible case scenario, when we look at hitting every single guaranteed shot, our runners could get as many as 15 blue balls. It's not to say it never happens. It's very unlikely. It actually did happen in this tournament. It's pretty sad to see, but we're hoping for minimal. Right now we only have 2.
SuperPlayer making his way to the top of Aga Tower here.
One other reason that our runners want to have as few of those blue ball attacks as possible, I mean, not only do they waste time, but if you have to go through a whole nother cycle, you'll have an extra lightning attack as well. So optimally, you get it in 2 cycles. Right now, we're looking like we might be approaching 3 or 4 if we get another blue ball. Nope, so we only have 4.
Only.
Generally speaking, most runners will consider 3 to be about average. Anytime you get more than that, most runners will complain. I'm one of them. But it's better than 7, 8, or 15 of them. The run is alive. Looks like SuperPlayer is about to walk into the Aghanim fight as well.
Hopefully he gets a lot less blue balls. That'll give him a chance to catch up here.
It is entirely possible that you get none. I mean, those 50-50 coin flips. Not very common, but you can do it.
Well, there's been quite a few people so far this tournament that has had 0 blue balls, so definitely possible.
It is definitely more common to have that than to have like 7 to 10 to 15. Alright, let's see how Aghanim treats him. Also want to make a quick note, if you look at the rupee count for SuperNinTaylor, it looks like our rupee route pulled off exactly what we needed to. He has 113 rupees.
He does want to be careful on this path, though, because if he does get hit, Kiki will run away, and he will be forced to pay him another $10, which he would definitely have to farm for some extra rupees for that.
I don't believe I've seen any blue balls yet. As we enter Palace of Darkness, we're basically looking at another collectathon. We're going to just grab a couple of keys, grab the big key, and then we're going to see a really nice, fun-to-execute trick, but barely ever consistent, for me at least, the bomb jump for the hammer.
Looks like he may have had 2 blue balls in that fight.
I think I counted the same. So 2 is pretty good. I mean, I'd feel pretty happy about that any day.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, typically 3 is average, but I'll take 2 all day in a run.
This is well, I think we should probably rename this dungeon to Mirror Palace. I mean, let's be real here.
Or Palace of Keys.
I wish I had a better joke to follow that up with, but that was better.
They both work. It's like SuperNinTaylor is about to pick up his big key. If you do happen to bonk right on that wall there, right before the key door up to the big key, you will activate a stair glitch, which is really unfortunate. Once you go up, it will automatically take you back down, but you can fix it by aligning yourself with the bottom part of the rail and actually key dashing in there. And then once you get up the stairs, you hold right and then exit, which is a really nice fix when that happens.
I didn't know that's what triggered it, so I appreciate the info.
That's what I'm here for, because I do it all the time.
Looks like SuperNinTaylor is setting up to do the bomb jump in the next room. There's a couple of different ways you can set this up. We'll see if we're going to use any pause buffers or if we're just going to do this bufferless. Looking like we're going to use pause buffers. So this trick, it is a 2-pixel perfect placement. You have to place the bomb on the correct y-axis pixel, and you have to place Link on the correct y-axis pixel. Some of our runners will opt to throw the bomb across as well at the same time in order to open this hole. Looks like you got it perfectly. That was really well executed. I think only 2 buffers.
I think NinTaylor had a few more buffers there to align himself, but overall, really good hammer jump from him.
Doing this allows us to avoid the whole dark maze besides getting that key. This can save anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds depending on who the runner is and how cleanly they move through that maze. Cuts out all of the RNG from the Kodongos, which is nice.
Also a good thing to note here too, NinTaylor only has 1 heart taken away, so he is able to get sword beams, which will save quite a bit of time in these next rooms, so he will not have to have extra menus to hit the key switches.
It's also very nice to see that we have 5 arrows walking into the Mimic's room. You don't have to stop to pick up any extra arrows, and he's not going to need any other arrows in the rest of the dungeon here because of full health, so managed to time that out perfectly. That was very calculated.
Yeah, it's never any fun when you're on good pace and you have to stop right in the middle of that Mimic fight just to grab the pot for some more arrows.
With that, we will get an opportunity to see our fan favorite turtle room. These turtles that you see in the floor in the rooms that SuperNinTaylor is in, they tend to move in strange directions. They're kind of hard to kill sometimes. The hitboxes for the hammer to flip them over are very weird, so it tends to be a party in this room. We'll see how he handles it.
Very nice turtle room by NinTaylor.
Perfect.
SuperPlayer is on his way to the hammer jump, so let's see how he handles this.
Opting to skip it. We also get to see the Helmasaur King fight on the left with SuperNinTaylor. SuperNinTaylor is going to try to get 17 hammer attacks on the shell to break it, and then after that we move into phase 2 where Helmasaur King can do all of their attacks at the same time. Helmasaur King can launch a fireball attack that goes in 3 different directions and a tail swipe. SuperNinTaylor handled it and cleaned it up very well.
Yeah, and NinTaylor actually went for the hammer strats, which is a really tight hitbox. Holding your sword out does open up the hitbox a little bit there, but just trying to get that angle on that hit can be very, very tough, especially when Helmasaur gives you really bad RNG and he charges you. So well done by NinTaylor.
You do also have some alternative strats. You can do sword spins. Those are harder to hit. And in my personal opinion, I mean, it's not as tight of a gap, but it can be very difficult. You can also shoot arrows at the jewel as well, which we don't see too many runners doing because it requires an extra menu. But it's a very valid strategy. You just got to hit that narrow hitbox.
And I believe this is the second longest maiden cutscene here in Pod. The first one being the swamp one. Seems like these just never end.
Well, if there is a reason that ALTTP runners had to buy controllers often, it's probably these cutscenes. When in doubt, mash it out.
Absolutely. SuperPlayer making his way over to the last few rooms of Palace of Darkness and onto Helmasaur.
Now that we finished Palace of Darkness, this is a place where we may see a few of our runners in this tournament diverge their routes. In this particular scenario, based on what we've seen so far, I'm going to assume that SuperNinTaylor is either... Well, did he pick up Mushroom?
I was just about to ask if he picked up Mushroom or not. I know lately Nintaylor has been opting out of Powder, so he may have picked up the Mushroom to do the fake Powder glitch.
Fake Powder is one of those glitches that I wish I could explain all the technical side of things, but what I do know is that you need to have enough magic to use the Cane of Samaria. You need to run out of magic, I believe, with it, and then you just switch over to the Mushroom and it works like Powder.
Yeah, pretty much in a nutshell. I mean, you don't have to have magic at all. If your magic is empty, you use the Cane of Samaria and quickly switch to the Mushroom, and then when you get out of the menu, it actually sprinkles powder, so...
And the nice thing about it is you don't lose the Mushroom in the process, so our runners could do this several times if they needed to. It's a really great, last resort strategy for healing.
Yeah, there's a couple of really good places in dungeons to use that fake powder. Specifically, that stands out the most towards the end of Misery Mire for Vitreous, and a lot of Anti-Fairies in Turtle Rock and GT as well. So mostly end game, but definitely a great strategy to use.
We see SuperNinTaylor here using the spin speed to get past Usain Bolt, the fastest guard in Hyrule.
If he does end up hitting you, that can go south very quickly.
He gives chase better than anybody else, so I mean, if you thought that you were good at dodging enemies, you really can't predict that one, and if most of the time you slide past him, it's kind of hard to recover.
Alright, SuperPlayer fighting Helmasaur right now. He has lost a few hearts before taking the mask off, so hopefully he takes this a little bit slow here.
Oh, that's a tough position. That corner tends to be pretty safe, so if you're finding yourself in a bind, I mean, it doesn't always line up perfect.
Oh no! SuperPlayer taking a hug from Helmasaur. Yeah, that's always tough when you get down hearts early in that fight. Helmasaur can be definitely a big bully.
It represents a pretty decent chunk of time lost. However, we do have a pretty fast, straightforward route to the back of the dungeon. All we have to do is make sure we have enough arrows to hit this switch and to get through the mimic rooms up ahead, but otherwise should be fine to get back to Helmasaur. Hopefully with full hearts this time to have an easier time finishing off, because if he had not taken damage in the turtle room, he might have survived that.
Also, another quick thing to know what we were talking about earlier, I did not see Nintaylor turning the mushrooms, so it does look like he's going to use that for fake powder.
If he had chosen to take the regular powder, this is probably one of the earliest places where you can get a lot of heavy use out of it. Thieves Town has a fair few of both the bunny beams and the anti-fairies kind of lying around, although the bunny beams are a little harder to find. For those of you out there who are considering picking up this run, we talk about these safeties and things that our runners will do to try to save time. I would not even worry too much about whether or not you get rid of those early on. It's much better to get a deathless run than it is to get a run without safeties that does die.
I could not agree more with that statement. Consistency always equals speed. SuperPlayer handling that additional turtle room very well.
This should set him up a lot better for the Helmasaur fight. Helmasaur King does a ton of damage, both the tail swipe and the fireballs. I believe it's 2 hearts of damage each.
Correct.
And hugging him does 3, right?
I think all damage from Helmasaur does 2 hearts, whether it's fireballs, tail, or hugging him.
Yeah, so we have a pretty narrow window to work with here. We can only take, so many hits. Getting pretty good RNG for the fight, though. Managed to get through all of the mask phase without a single fireball. One thing that you can do if the fireball is on screen when you destroy the mask is you can actually despawn the fireballs by destroying it at the right time.
Much, much better fight from SuperPlayer. Congrats on that good Helma fight.
I bet he was wishing for it a few minutes ago.
Meanwhile, NMG is making his way through the back part of Thieves Town here.
So those of you who have played this game casually, possibly in the last 20 years or so, may notice that we are going to Thieves Town before we go to the other dungeons in the Ordained Order, as you see it on the map. Care to explain why it is that we go to Thieves Town first?
Sure. We choose to go to Thieves Town and make it a little bit faster because the item that we receive in this dungeon is actually the gold gloves, which will help us in the next part after this to get the tempered sword a little bit early by rescuing the blacksmith. So doing dungeons a little bit out of order can actually speed it up because you get a lot more damage with that tempered sword earlier on.
There are some other dungeon shufflings that we can see with our runners. For the most part, most people doing the run these days are going in pretty standard order of their dungeons unless they're playing a different version. In all likelihood, Fricker is probably going to go to Skull Woods next, and then to Ice Palace in that order. Although you can do Swamp Palace already, and you could potentially go to Misery Mire at a different time that you would normally go, which would be after Ice Palace. All of the route divergences only save a handful of transitions.
Looks like NMG is about to start his blind fight here. The blind fight actually is a little bit easier than most new runners know, mainly because the blind fight is scripted. So if you know exactly how to do this fight, you can predict exactly where the heads are going to spin and where the fireballs are going to go. And as you see from NMG, he had a fantastic fight.
Yeah, that was almost perfect. If he had not taken like one heart, that probably would have been perfect. That's about as close to optimal as I could ever expect to see anybody get in a race. There's a couple of things that newer runners may want to know about setting up that fight. I mean, it is scripted, so you just got to do those exact movements, but you just want to focus mostly on not getting hit by those fireballs, because it's very easy to get all 3 shots on blind before he can shoot a laser at you. You just need to make sure that you're not taking like invincibility frame, you're not doing a damage boost in the wrong direction. So just make sure you're moving around, and not staying in one spot. I believe it's every 4th fireball that these heads shoot will actually track your position, so you do have to keep moving.
Correct. Also a thing to note too, if you do happen to die to blind, the refight becomes much, much harder. So there are bunny beams and additional hearts on the way back to blind, which will help that refight considerably, as you will have beams and you're able to fight him from the bottom.
That is something else to note, is that blind takes 1 heart of, or 1 HP of damage no matter what kind of damage source you're using, as long as it can hit him. You could use hammer. If you had the Canis Mary, you could use it. But sword beams are a very safe, reliable way. You just can't normally pull those off when you're starting the fight initially, when you're bringing blind up to the center of the room.
So it looks like SuperPlayer is opting to get a couple of safeties here, Bottle, and I would assume that he would go straight up to the sick kit here and get the net.
Yep, no point in not grabbing extra safeties. I know it saved me like 6 times when I ran yesterday, so I mean, I don't fault anybody for doing this.
You will see in the tournament setting, though, a lot of runners that typically don't get safeties, they do still end up picking up safeties just because of the tournament atmosphere. So completely understandable. And, as many times as I die during my runs, sometimes I wish I wouldn't have dropped powder. So definitely a good move from SuperPlayer.
One thing that we may end up seeing from some of the runners in this tournament, as they've completed their first and second matches of, their group phase, everybody has 3. Some of them may opt to take even more safeties after they've, finished their first or second match. What their seeding for the single elimination bracket is going to be based on is their fastest race time in this phase. So if they do pull off a really sick 1:30 or something in a previous match, they may just try to hopefully just get the win and be a little safer in doing so. They may lean more on those strategies in the second half of the group phase.
And Taylor bonking on fence dash there. That fence dash can save you a little bit of time. It's always funny. A lot of people say that it's free, but I can never get it, I swear to God.
Sounds like it isn't free to me.
No. Basically, on the transition of that screen, if you want to get fence dash, all you have to do is just hit left and dash 1 pixel, and then dash up, so you're able to freely dash along that fence.
It just speaks to how much of this game has been optimized over the years. When runs of this first started coming out, I mean, people were impressed by the sub 2 hour times, you know, and they came down to like 140 and 135. The record progression for this game over the years has been phenomenal to watch. And actually, the second place time in the leaderboard, WQ, is our #1 seed of this tournament, so it'd be exciting to see him race as well.
Absolutely, and NMG in one of the worst rooms in this game, in my opinion.
These mummies are really friendly guys. They really want to hug.
All right, looks like SuperPlayer is now making his way into Thieves Town. Let's see if NMG opts to dash through the top part of these flowers here to see if he can get a fairy drop.
Definitely sorely needs it. He does have a bomb jump coming up.
And there it is. Nicely played, NMG.
Clutch Master Flex over here.
You did see he was a little hesitant. He did not want to hit the roper there. That would have killed him, and an unfortunate death in the overworld would be a serious time loss.
Yeah, our runners definitely don't want to die at all in this run, but overworld deaths are extra costly. In this particular scenario, he has to get back to, you know, the Dark World and Skull Woods, so you would have to flute over to Kakariko, go through the portal. You don't have the, well, he does have the golden gloves, so you would be able to go through the fast portal, but it's a huge, huge time loss. You just cannot afford it.
Nice key dash from SuperPlayer there.
SuperPlayer gets an opportunity to go through our infamously known room called the Hellway, opting to go for a pretty safe strategy and only takes a couple hearts damage. Hey, another nice key dash.
I know NMG has been working on his mummy Heckway here. Let's see if he can pull this off optimally. This is a fantastic room from NMG.
Wow. A lot of these rooms, you'll see our runners do them almost as if they've done them thousands of times. It's actually very easy to do them thousands of times thanks to the tools that this community has created. Poor Little Pinkus, I believe, created the practice hack for this game. Anybody who's interested in doing a run of this game should definitely try it.
Nice Mothula fight from NMG. There is a strategy that you can do at the start of the Moth fight where you can actually bonk into the block that's in the top middle there, and you can actually get a poke double hit on Moth to be able to only get 3 hits in that fight on that boss, which makes it considerably faster.
Not only that, but considerably easier. That boss gets very difficult the longer it goes. Not only do you have conveyor belts on the floor, but you have spikes that do, of course, a harder damage, moving throughout randomly. And as it turns out, Mothula is immune to any kind of damage that he takes from spikes. So if you knock him into a spike, it actually cancels the damage you just did.
If anybody out there is looking to optimize that fight, I know Josh RTA has a fantastic video on Mothula and exactly what to look for and how to do that quick kill. So if you're interested in that, check out that tutorial. It is fantastic.
With that, looks like SuperPlayer is about to pick up his golden gloves, or the Titan's mitts as we like to call them. SuperNinTaylor here is going to take advantage of a lot of earlier decisions that we made, picking up the 600 rupees in Thieves Town, or the Village of Outcasts. There's 2 chests there that you can pick up. You need these to buy the flippers, which you're going to use to get into Ice Palace. You could alternatively fake flipper in there, but we need to get the Quake medallion in this direction anyway, so we're just going to do them all at the same time.
NMG winning the lottery there. Does look like SuperPlayer is a little off script in this blind fight, but hopefully he's able to take him out here.
Doing a very good job of dodging these fireballs.
Nicely done. On the left side of the screen here, you did see NMG bonk off that before he picked up the quick medallion. That did set him up for the quick warp there.
Some of these quick warps are a little easier than others. If you have to do a freestanding mirror, that's usually difficult, but if you have setups like that, you can save, you know, easy frames every time.
Some nice water dashes here on NMG's side. This is a very hard screen to optimize. Sometimes you'll get stuck in a loop where you just you're trying to move and you keep jumping in the water without flippers. It's no fun.
And it's a little deceptive of exactly where it is where Link will jump off. You can actually overlap a fair amount of the deep water, but you just have to make sure you know exactly where those lines are ahead of time.
All right, looks like SuperPlayer is picking up his money, getting ready for the purchase of the flippers after Skullwoods.
And then Taylor's finishing up the short shopping trip. Now that we have the items that we need, we're going to see Ice Palace and probably Ice Palace, Swamp, and then Mire, but some people do them differently.
This is definitely one of the worst warps in the game here. It's so tiny, it has just the smallest hitbox to get in there. Everyone's favorite dungeon, Ice Palace.
You say that with just a tiny hint of sarcasm.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Well, what about this dungeon so rough?
Everything. More particular, there is quite a bit of tech in here. Taking some parts of damage. There is a bomb jump that does help you skip half the dungeon, which is fantastic because going to the far right side of this dungeon to get the big key is no fun. But more particular, the boss Cold Stare. He hits very, very heavy. It's 4 hearts of damage every time Cold Stare gives you a nice little hug. So definitely a very scary boss in a tournament setting for most of the players.
And there is one reason that, you know, some people will do some dungeons out of order. Some people are deathly afraid of that, and for good reason, because, yeah, you can get hit 3 times and you're gone. Some people will opt to get the extra hearts that you'll get from other dungeons by beating them. So that's part of the reason that you'll see route diversions in this tournament. I don't think our top players are likely to change their route because this is the optimal order to take. But the differences are not significant enough where, like, somebody with a 140, you know, time is going to, you know, lose their personal best over it.
And it did look like SuperPlayer opted to pick up half magic. That would be extremely helpful with the Cold Stare fight coming up, as well as Trinex.
Traditionally speaking, you have to use all of your magic to destroy the ice shell around Cold Stare. There is actually an alternate strat you can do that Terror actually showed me recently in a tournament match. I've been trying to employ it myself. You can actually line up sword beams with the fire rod when it hits, and if you time it up correctly, you can only use half as much magic in the fight. This allows you to save some of it for the second phase, but it's a little bit finicky. You got to practice it.
That was a nice bomb jump over there from NMG. I believe it is 1 of 3 pixels that you can stand on towards the left side there at the end that will allow you to bomb jump over the edge of those pegs that you did see were up. That does allow NMG to skip half the dungeon and go right to the boss.
And we'll see why exactly that works in just a moment when he walks directly right into this room. Normally you have to circle around the dungeon to be on this side with the block to push it down, and it has to be that block, otherwise you need the Canis Sumeria to do this instead. With this in mind, though, we're going to skip half the dungeon and go right to Cold Stare. Sub 1 hour.
Talking to NMG here earlier, he did mention to me that he has been working on his double poke strat for Cold Stare, so most of it has looked good, so hopefully fingers crossed here for this very hard strat he's about to try.
The biggest thing here is that we get this first spin slash cleanly and we keep him in the corner.
Did look like he dropped his sword right at the end of that sword spin, so he's going to have a little bit of a Cold Stare party here.
Thankfully, while these are exploding, there's a fair amount of lag on the screen. You get a little more time to line up your shot. Whoa, that was close.
Very scary, down to a half a heart there. Another shout out to the Saint card. It's a nicely done boss. That's a lot of pressure when you have half a heart and you're trying to run away from falling blocks and and marshmallows that are trying to hug you.
Hey, that was a great recovery, though. One thing that you can keep in mind with this boss and the Argus as well, we're moving in the exact same angles throughout the room, so you can predict for the most part, where they're heading. You just got to be careful to avoid the falling ice at the same time.
Looks like SuperPlayer is on his way over to do the bomb jump for the fire rod.
Just to clarify for the audience, anybody who doesn't run this game, bomb jumps are not strictly required. They are great time saves. We talked about the Tower of Hera one saving you about 15-20 seconds. The Palace of Darkness saves you over half a minute. And that one saves you a nice 15-20 seconds. You don't have to drop into this hole and go around. So all of these things, if you know how to do them, easy time save. But if you can't do it, don't sweat it. Just do the run anyway without it.
I'm taking a quick peek at NMG's splits on his stream. Looks like he's about plus 16 seconds right now, so he's definitely making up a lot of time, and hopefully we'll see him PB towards the end here.
That should be exciting. Now that we have finished off that Ice Palace, though, we're going to warp to Link's house. We're going to take the portal south of his house to go right to Swamp. Swamp's a pretty straightforward dungeon. There's a fair amount of water physics to deal with, though. Swimming, are you familiar with swimming mechanics? Do you know how to explain the optimal way?
Swimming is a very hard concept, just like ice physics in this game, but I don't exactly know any optimal strats as far as swimming goes, but I do know a couple of key things. I do know when you jump in the water, you kind of want to wait for the splash to end before you start trying to swim. And then another key point, I believe, from that is while you're swimming, I think you don't want to be mashing the A button to swim. It's just nice, smooth strokes. Kind of the same sword strokes that you would use on ball and chain guy. So that would definitely improve your swimming technique if you're not mashing those buttons.
Don't mind me, I'm just taking notes over here. We do get a Mothula fight out of SuperPlayer, though. Let's see how he handles it.
He does have half magic, so looks like he is going to go ham with the fire rod here. Or might just stick with the cheetah sword. Oh, he does take a hit from Moth. Unfortunate death for SuperPlayer. But he does have a fairy. Fairy for the win.
Yeah, it's much better to have that fairy and go through that death animation than walk all the way back through. I mean, that's not the costliest death out there, but, and he's going to have to get another fairy later, so there is some menuing and extra time spent on that. Again, so much better than a death.
Absolutely.
Now, I wonder, do you think SuperNinTaylor here is going to pull off a really nice hammer dash one try?
There are a few spots in Swamp to do the hammer dash. I would say absolutely.
Aw, man, I thought he was going to do it right there. I think hammer dash is the best item dash, in my opinion. I know hook dash is sweet, but hammer dash just looks awesome.
Yeah, hammer dash is pretty cool. I know for those two key pot rooms, optimally what you want to do is you want to walk up to the pot, hammer it, and then start your dash out as you grab the key.
Now that SuperPlayer has finished up Skull Woods, should be on their way to pick up the flippers, so they're going to want to go back to Link's house to take the portal at Hyrule Castle.
That portal in Hyrule Castle also does have a quick warp setup.
I was wondering about that. I've never done that one.
You want to try to dash like on the right side of the under part of that bridge, and if you end up nudging there, I believe it's only one more pixel out to the left.
Okay, so just barely clip the corner.
There's your hammer dash.
It's just so satisfying.
I think that the hammer dash is one of the first item dashes I learned when I started playing this game. I
want to say I probably learned it because a lot of the folks out here watching are fans of the randomizer as well. A lot of times you use it for the hammer pegs just south of Blacksmith.
I did have a question in chat about flooding the key. In no major glitches, you cannot flood the key.
All right, now that we have our hook shot, boing, 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 we can head back to Argus in the back half of Swamp Palace. With that, there's a possibility we might see the zero cycle. Do you think SuperNinTaylor's practiced that?
He has practiced the zero cycle, so he's definitely going to go for it. One quick note I wanted to say, hooking to that pot on the left, not a lot of people know this, but you actually want to item dash that hook. Do a hook dash there, which puts Link into the super speed state and allows you to pick up that pot from pretty much anywhere while that statue is on it. It makes it a lot easier.
That answered a very long-term lingering question. I really appreciate that.
To be honest with you, I actually just learned it myself probably like 3 weeks or so ago. So looking at Pincus's practice hack, I was wondering why the save state on that part is called hook dash. And I'm like, let me try something. And sure enough, it works phenomenally.
Yeah, I mean, if you think you know a lot about this game just from having played it casually, having played it forever, I mean, it's been 20 plus years now, you know, you're never going to run out of things to learn in this game. There's always something that you didn't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of even recent finds lately too, which is fantastic. But kind of a big question. I know NMG has been working on his zero cycle, but with only 4 hearts, he may opt to do a traditional, safer strategy here. Oh, he's got to be careful here. Down to 2 hearts. I believe all the Puffs and Argus do 2 hearts of damage, so he's definitely got to be careful here.
Yeah, Swamp Palace is really slow to get back to this boss room, so it would be very bad if you missed here.
Oh no, NMG taking an unfortunate death. He released his sword spin for the quick kill a little too early and had to redo it, which kind of put him off the mark.
Alright, I'm going to leave all the boss commentaries to you so I don't curse anybody anymore.
Commentator's curse.
Press F to pay respects in chat, please.
Shoutouts to Blunt Bunny on the right side of the screen.
Do you think SuperPlayer's rolling deep?
He's playing like it. Playing very well.
It looks like SuperPlayer is trying to go for a fast kill strategy in the Stalfos Knights room. Unfortunately, you have to place the bomb in the top enemy first and then knock the bottom one towards it. You can save a lot of lag in that room.
It's like NMG opted to take a south route strategy at the bottom of the palace here for an extra 2 hearts in the pots. Alright, SuperPlayer going to line up the bomb jump here.
As Fricker mentioned before, there's 3 different setups you can use for it. A lot of people will use the pixel at the top of Link's head to line it up. That's my personal reference. Clean bomb jump, though.
And then Taylor tries the zero cycle once again. He gets half the puffs, so nicely done there as he finishes off Argus.
Excellent
finish.
finish.
The quick kill. Nice job, NMG.
With that, we're going to make our sweep further west to Misery Mire, and then we should be good to head up to Turtle Rock. But before we can do that, we do have to pick up an item. We have to pick up our Ether Medallion from the top of Death Mountain. If only there was a way to get that earlier, this would be a much faster route.
It's actually a scary route to do, too, just because the RNG up Death Mountain. These runners definitely want to have full hearts for their sword beams going into Misery Mire.
Oh no, SuperPlayer accidentally pushed the block north, so he's going to have to leave the room and then come back to reset it.
I think you may have to go upstairs to reset the block.
Correct, you are.
Hopefully he does know that. You can just go up the stairs and you can jump down on the left or the right side and get additional fairies, and then come back down to be able to reset the block where you want it to go.
It's not something that comes up too often for most runners, so it's kind of not too surprising to seem a little confused by it. Definitely the smart thing to do, though, like you mentioned, to get these fairies, you definitely want to walk in a cold stair with as much health as possible.
And you may see a path divergence here between NTaylor and SuperPlayer when it comes to getting the Ether and Ice Rod medallion here, to see if he opts to do that after he finishes Ice Palace. Mainly because, one, it'll save you hearts on Misery Mire with the RNG and the Death Mountain, but if he does opt to pick up Gold Sword and Silver Arrows, he would much rather do that once he finishes Swamp Palace.
All right, time to see how we do with Cold Stare.
He's got this.
I have faith. Having that half magic gives him a lot of advantages here that most runners don't have, because half magic, you know, allows you to use so much more Fire Rod. So while he did a very clean kill on the first puff and the second puff, he would be able to use it as a backup if he needed to.
Very nice Cold Stare fight from SuperPlayer.
Yeah, he didn't take any hits.
All right, and then Taylor having to use an extra bomb. He is going to pick this rock up here for a 50-50 bomb. It is not there. It is very important that he does have a bomb for Misery Mire, so he may opt to pick up that rock again on his way out, or he will have to kill the slug in Misery Mire for an additional bomb.
Looks like the latter of the two. No, he is going to try it.
Nice, the 50-50 bomb there. Good choice by NTaylor.
I mean, if you flip a coin twice.
Well, personally, I'm not very good at coin flips, so I lose them all.
We also get an opportunity to potentially see a meme here on the left. He has the lineup. Will we see the fabled bird toss today?
I think we will, yeah. There it is.
And the crowd goes wild. SuperNinTaylor keeping in with tradition.
So it does look like SuperPlayer is opting to take a different divergence in his route here, getting the Ether Medallion and possibly the Ice Rod before he goes to the next dungeon.
I'm not 100% certain on the exact amount of time difference between, you know, going with different dungeons, going with different orders for picking up Ether and Ice Rod. Once you've pretty much got the flippers and Quake, you know, you can do all the rest of it in whatever order you want. But as far as I know, it's the difference of like a flute or two.
There's not too much time lost in there. The biggest reason why most runners do it the way they do is because they'll have the hook shot to climb Death Mountain, which gives you the sword climb ability, which it does save you a little bit of time, but particularly this one, it doesn't lose too much time just by switching those up.
And it looks like SuperPlayer did opt to get the Ice Rod pretty early as well, so won't have to worry too much about collecting items at this point. It's just a straight dungeon clear. NTaylor took advantage of a pretty fun glitch, or I guess exploit that you can take advantage of with the blocks. If you're pushing a block and you're using something that can extend through the block, like a fire rod or a hook shot, you can use it as if the block's not even there while you're pushing it. So you saw on the screen NTaylor was pushing the block and then shooting the fire rod. The timing's pretty specific, but you can do that instead of having to push all three of the blocks and use the lamp. It's a lot faster.
Also, one thing to note too is NTaylor had a 1:13 torch time. That's always a good reference for the player because Most of the good runners can actually time it from their torch time, usually finishing the game right about 20 minutes out, so they can kind of see where their pace is at. And Taylor opting for a safer route rather than chancing it on Spark Skip there.
As of right now, SuperNinTaylor has a PB of 1 hour 34 minutes and 16 seconds on the leaderboard. That would put him in a pretty close pace to PB run here.
PB watch for NMG. Super player having a little bit of rough time in Meyer 2 here without beams and down really low on his hearts. He has some really nice dodging from these whiz robes.
Well, it's interesting that by happenstance, these runners are both in the same dungeon at the same time. I believe this indicates that Super Player should be looking to pick up the gold sword and silver arrows. Is that correct?
That is correct. The gold sword and silver arrows will save a considerable amount of time, especially through these last few dungeons. You can kill Trinex a little bit quicker. Going up through Gannett's Tower with the gold sword is a little bit better, and silver arrows, but I think it adds maybe about 2 minutes to the run, but it does save maybe around like 40 seconds or so. Anybody in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but it will make this a little bit faster for the gold sword and silver arrows for Super Player.
I looked away for a second. Did we see a cane dash out of NMG?
I was actually looking at Super Player's screen here.
We will, however, get to see the Vitreous fight. There's a lot of newer strategies that have happened over the last few years that have really optimized this fight. We'll see how SuperNinTaylor chooses to handle it.
I believe NMG will go for the WQ strategy.
Thanks to the goop that's on the floor, it does 1 heart of damage every time you are standing in it and you have collision protection with it. You get invincibility frames afterwards, so you can just do spin slashes in the middle of those eyeballs and do a lot more damage. It's a very fast way to do the fight, and he gets through very cleanly.
Yeah, shoutouts to WQ for that strategy there. Ever since I learned that personally, I've been a lot more confident in that fight, because those eyeballs can hit you real hard. I believe it's 4 hearts of damage, but with the WQ strat, you can have 3 specific spins within the U there, utilizing those iframes, and take minimal damage and still have the opportunity to get a 0 cycle on him. So it's a fantastic strategy.
Yeah, you can optimally do as low as, what is it? You said 3 hearts of damage?
3 or 4 hearts of damage, I believe, if you do it optimally.
Yeah, so even without the safeties that a lot of our runners take, I mean, you can still pull that off. Definitely something that you want to learn if you're going to do this run. That's a really important boss fight to do quickly, because you will lose a lot of time if you die to that boss.
I'm going to do a quick shout out to Super Player there. He got caught on the bottom of the Spark Skip with the Spark and 2 fire bars. I'm sorry, fire snakes, and he did kind of a cool bonk strategy to avoid damage there that I've never seen before, so that was really cool. And also, I believe he got an extra key, but it looks like he decided to get Spike Key as well. You do not need that extra key, but maybe he did forget that he picked up an additional one earlier on.
That seems to be the case, because, yeah, I mean, there wouldn't be any other reason to grab it otherwise. Maybe he thinks that'll be his key to victory today.
Super Player in my opinion, the worst room ever. That the block on the switch just never works out well for me.
You know, it really blows my mind that people have done this game blindfolded. I saw Parisian Player do a blind run of this, and I don't know how he handled that room. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh no, I'll have trouble putting the block on the switch, and then when I get on the switch, I'll dash out and dash into the block, and it's a nightmare.
And then Taylor here doing the really difficult spin speed hammer strat to open up to a rock. We'll see if he does the medallion dash as well. Very lesser known speed tech in this game. You can actually do an item dash with the medallion here, and those steps leading up to the platform there actually do work to give you spin speed. Unfortunately, we didn't get it here.
All right, Super Player on his way to the Vitreous fight.
Probably the nicest anti-fairy in the entire game. Looks like a pretty standard WQ attempt here.
He did take a hug from one of those eyes. He's got to be very careful here. Oh, he does get hit another eye and take a death. He does have those fairies are coming in clutch for Super Player. Hopefully he's able to finish out Vitreous here.
I'm having flashbacks to my run yesterday. Uh-oh, that lighting's gonna be trouble.
I just want to point out, NMG did have a fantastic D boost out of Roller Room 1. Roller Room 1. It's a very tough strategy to do.
Yeah, I guess you abuse the invincibility frames after you get hit by the first roller. Usually you just hook shot through the first two of them, but on the way back you can get a dash that goes right through the door pretty cleanly. And we actually did get that fairy from the pokey.
Going with the beam strats for the Chomp Room. Well done.
Well, it's good to see that in spite of what happened in Hyrule Castle, then Taylor did still manage to get that fairy. He made really great use of the beam strats because of it. Otherwise, the RNG in that room looked pretty rough for trying to do the Canis Samaria. He might have got caught there. Also elects to pick up the safety arrows there.
Yeah, those safety arrows are your best friend.
30 or bust.
And then Taylor getting pretty decent pokey RNG here. One of the easier ones to deal with.
I believe Super Player is heading to Swamp next.
And then Taylor with the great dash, skipping the anti-fairies there.
Overall, a very efficient Turtle Rock. This is going to be a really great split, it looks like. Pending the laser skip, of course.
Nice pokey 2-room by NMG. Yeah, this roller room can be pretty hard at times, but NMG does use the bonk strat to get over it.
Yeah, I made excellent use of iframes from the pegs.
That room is timed for that roller in the previous room where you have to dash past the pokey and bonk into the wall. If you do that room a little bit slower, that the roller can be in a different position.
Kind of like how the Bunny Beam affects the Lamolus 2 fight.
Correct.
Well, as NMG makes his way through the Dark Maze in Turtle Rock, we're approaching the Laser Bridge skip. I wonder if he's going to take the safety door. He has relatively low hearts.
That's a good
Oh, he has
question.
no bomb.
Oh, yeah, he does not have a bomb. That's a good call out.
He may have been intending to skip it in the first place, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Oh, yeah, he definitely planned that.
Very nice cane dash. Hitting both switches with one use.
It's like Super Player is making fast work of these rooms here in Swamp Palace.
And Taylor making Trinex over here look very easy. Well, I couldn't have wished for a better fight than myself if I was doing it. I mean, that was about as good as it gets for Trinex. There's a couple of opportunities to do a little bit faster in the last phase, but all in all, taking good advantage of the head being the vulnerable part until it starts circling the room. Very clean wrap-up from SuperNinTaylor.
Yeah, there is a couple different strategies that you can use for Trinex, doing it from the front or taking the backdoor strategy. I mean, both done optimal, they're pretty similar, maybe within a second, but definitely a clean fight from NMG.
With that, NMG will be heading to Ganon's Tower to make the final push against Ganon himself. SuperPlayer is going to be not too far behind, about a dungeon and a half right now, heading up to Turtle Rock immediately following the Argus fight. SuperPlayer did already collect all the items they need, so we don't have to stop for the ice rod at all.
Ganon Tower is definitely such an awesome dungeon to watch experienced runners do as well. There's so many things going on in these rooms and so much tech that you can learn. It's definitely a fantastic watch all the way up to the top here.
It's also a really great example of everything that we've learned in this run. You're going to see pretty much every trick that's used in minor glitches, with the exception of a couple overworld things, all in sequence with a ton of combat elements as well. We're going to see more fighting in this part of the game than really any other part of the game whatsoever when it comes to regular enemies.
And then Taylor did take a hit from Lionel Richie, so he is a few hearts down.
Opts to skip the torch key, going to pick up this key instead, and 2 others. There are several different keys that you can pick up here in Ganon's Tower. You don't have to strictly go with one over the other. So it's really mostly down to runner preferences. You know, they're going to save only a small handful of frames for any differences and choices they make there.
Like NMG tried to go for the spike skip. That's a pretty hard strat to get. It's got to be very, very fast, and I think there's 1 pixel you got to be on to make sure that you get it, but an additional 2 pixels to the left is still possible, but definitely a very tight window for that trick.
NMG is very rapidly approaching the Armos 2 fight. Armos on Ice, as you like to say. I don't know where the box office is on the ticket prices for that, but that'll be coming up shortly, and then SuperPlayer is already approaching Argus, so we should have some pretty close to the same time boss fights here.
Yeah, I saw that SuperPlayer did opt to pick up the restock room and get some additional hearts there before the boss fight.
One thing that we're probably going to see SuperNinTaylor do in his fight is we're probably going to see him try to delay the cycling of the Armos until they've all rested in position in their circle. They won't actually start circling the room, so he may end up taking advantage of that. SuperPlayer is down to 3 hearts against Argus. As long as he doesn't take two hits here, he should be okay.
A nice fight from both of our runners there. And something about that Armos fight too. If that Armos fight does go wrong, and you get the last one to turn red, and you happen to be in that room for a lot longer than intended, it can give something called arc variable on Ganon, where the bats will spawn in a different rotation. So that's definitely something to look out for if that room does not go right.
In that case, I got lucky. I ran that yesterday and had the same problem against Armos. Ran out of arrows, and I'm very grateful they didn't get that Ganon. You said it was just a variable that basically impacts the rotation?
It does. If you were in that Ice Armos fight for too long, it will change the bat rotation and the how they fly out in phase 2. For somebody that does like dash strat, on Ganon or something of that nature, and not knowing how those bats are going to come out in a different way can be very troublesome.
I get the feeling after this, I'm going to check out the practice hack to see if I can set the RNG for that. That's probably an interesting thing to learn how to do as a backup.
I always got to know those backups just in case. NMG opted to get the fairy room here.
You can also find a full magic refill at the bottom pot in there. He didn't need it in this situation, but definitely a useful thing to know.
All right, NMG starting the gauntlet.
These rooms are, for the most part, pretty much all killer rooms, so, you know, it's just whatever way you can to clear these rooms as fast as possible. Pot strats are used a lot. You can throw a pot a lot more accurately than you can just a sword swipe, you know, very close on a conveyor, for example. Let's see if he tries to dash through. Very nice.
Yeah, and that Gauntlet 3 room, that was a fantastic pause buffer to the Fire Rod from NMG. I'm a huge fan of that.
Lambolas 2 is a much easier fight. You can kill each of these worms with just 2 Fire Rod shots or a small handful of sword slashes, so we got that in 2 cycles. That's pretty clean.
One quick thing to note, too, over on SuperPlayer's side is I did not see him pick up Gold Sword and Silver Arrows as he's making his way to T-Rock here.
So he may be working off of a different dungeon routing just for whatever reason. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go with the route that the top times are going with. We talked about it at length before, you know, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's not that significant. So he may just be running a different route out of preference for safety with hearts, or possibly getting that hook shot at a certain time, the Canis Samaria. Or maybe that's just the only way super players ever run it.
And Taylor missing that first torchlight, he had to circle back around.
Should be able to squeeze through, no problem. There is a rare glitch that you can trigger if you go up these stairs at the same time that the door closes behind you. You can actually despawn all of the sprites in Ganon's Tower. It's a very costly mistake because you have to mirror to reset the dungeon, and they're pretty far up the ascent right now.
Yeah, that's never any fun for that to happen.
Speaking of Parisian player earlier, he actually had that happen to him in this tournament. Alright, now we're coming up on Moldorm 2 on SuperNinTaylor's side. Rather than dealing with the rollers, SuperPlayer opted to just mirror out of the roller room.
Definitely a safe choice. I believe that does lose 5 seconds, but someone that's not comfortable with the D-boost strat on the way back it's a fantastic choice. I know, I believe maybe ACM LM does that as well, and he's definitely a top runner, so definitely a good routing choice as well.
And Taylor manages to get through the mini Helmasorm room pretty well. Anytime you bump off of any of those bumpers, you're in rough shape. We'll see how he handles Aga 2 here. Aghanim 2 has 3 forms in this fight. 2 of them are illusions. Those only shoot yellow balls, and the actual Aghanim has a 50-50 shot just like before of shooting a blue ball. He actually got a triple on that shot. That was great. Wow, if only he had that in the second round. So that's 2 triples with a, I guess a dead round or dead cycle between them. So 3-0-3 to get into the Ganon fight. Let's see if SuperNinTaylor can finish this off quickly.
It's like SuperPlayer's just stopping to use his powder to gather up another fairy.
And Taylor is his PB is about 10 seconds from now, so it looks like he's not going to be able to pull off a PB run here. Although it should be a very good time nonetheless.
See if SuperNinTaylor pulls off a 1-on-1. Do you want to explain the 1-on-1 strategies?
So with the tempered sword, as opposed to the gold sword, you have to get 12 different, or you have to get 12 slashes on each phase of Ganon in order to advance to the next phase. If you line up correctly, and if you get the right RNG for Ganon's warps, you can get 2 consecutive one-cycle phases, 1 and 1. Doing so saves a tremendous amount of time. It's also less risky too. These fire bats are sometimes hard to dodge. And they do the most next to hugging Ganon directly. As for the best possible ways to set it up, you'll see a lot of people do sword spins if they can line themselves up against the wall. Otherwise, single slashes are going to be their best method here.
Did look like NMG got hit by a fire bat trying to go for a spin on the bottom there, so he did have an additional phase on the top in phase 2.
Not a problem though. Moving on to phase 3, this is the easier part of the fight for most people. All you gotta do is just make sure he doesn't shoot flames around him when he jumps, or at least make sure he jumps, because you want him to hit the floor 4 times.
Oh, SuperPlayer taking an unfortunate death in Poke 2 room, but he did have that fairy.
And Taylor's in a rough spot there. Manages to recover. There's a very small window for NMG to do a sword slash to do damage to Ganon. He's down to 1 heart though, and he needs that lamp to be lit. He did manage to get torch glitch though by lighting that torch before the other one went out. Now the one on the right will stay lit. Now, if you time it correctly, you can actually get 3 sword spins per cycle, but you have to use the fire rod to light the torch from a distance if you want to line up your sword spin at the same time. There we go, and GG.
GG's to NMG.
Looking at the race channel, it looks like SuperNinTaylor here is going to be finishing up with a final speed racing TV official time of 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 37 seconds. We'll see if we can pull him in here for a quick interview.
It's a very good run for NMG. Like I had said before the race had started, he's only been playing a little over a month, so fantastic race and time out of NMG.
Now, our runners, besides their head-to-head matches, like we talked about before, they're also looking to get their best possible seeding. So both of these players, whether they're going to advance to the single elimination bracket or not, are going to be hoping for their best possible time anyway.
Oh, looks like SuperPlayer took another death there. Good thing he opted to get another additional fairy.
And it looks like we will be able to get SuperNinTaylor in here for an interview in just a moment. I think we might have him now. Congratulations, SuperNinTaylor, and GG.
Oh, hold on 1 sec. I have Discord muted.
I see.
Hello?
GG, SuperNinTaylor. Nice race.
Thank you.
We were pretty close to a PB there. How did you feel about your whole run in general, though? I mean, you did very well for a race setting.
Yeah. The Moldorm fall was kind of unfortunate because I was on the last hit of Moldorm, and falling on the last hit's kind of a major time waste. And then blue balls, that kind of sucked. I think I had like 5 or something. I don't know.
I think you had 4.
Had what, sorry?
I think it was 4.
4? Okay. It seemed like a lot, probably just because I got 3 in a row. And then I started catching back up. I was only 16 seconds away from a PB after ice, and then Swamp happened. So yeah, I've been practicing quite a bit of Argus, and in the practice hack you don't have powder or mushroom, so I was just not used to the menu, and I totally menued wrong, and it screwed me up completely. And yeah.
We did see a few people in chat suggesting that, so it does sound like we had a couple good predictions in chat as to why that actually happened. So that makes a lot more sense. It's always a pain to do all of the menuing, like for every attempt you make. You want to have those items active if you're going to take them in a run. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like that was just an unfortunate coincidence. But you did recover very well. I mean, you were very consistent. I'm looking at splits, and you had kept your run pretty steady from there.
I even thought about it too, like when I was doing the practice hack, I was like, I should just throw in mushroom or powder here just to put it there, just so I'm used to it. But I never did it. Yeah, it's kind of funny how that cost me. But yeah, other than that, I feel like it was an alright run. Like, it was sloppy at parts, but it's all good.
Yeah, GG is definitely an NTaylor. I wrote down a few things here which you had already brought up, but I just had a question on the Argus fight there, but you did answer that just because you weren't used to having the mushroom there, and it was just kind of a weird menu for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I let go of my spin and everything because I just, I don't know why I did that. I just wasn't thinking. Once I hit the mushroom, I was just like, where am I? What am I doing?
We also do have SuperPlayer ready to come over into commentary, I think.
Oh, did he forfeit or something?
It does look like he reset, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate.
Alright, I'm gonna see if I can race him into the commentary one.
But yeah, overall, NTaylor, super good run for you. I was kind of rooting for you in the double poke in cold stare. You almost had it there, just a little bit early on the release.
Yeah, I think the problem there was I didn't hold down the second dash, the poke dash, long enough, and I just let go of my sword.
Yo.
Welcome, NGG SuperPlayer.
I didn't understand.
Yeah, what happened at the end there? We thought you were still on your way through Turtle Rock.
Yeah, I was going for laser skip, mirror skip. I don't know the name. I think it's laser skip.
Yeah, you have it right.
And I've done it with the fairy, but I've done it. And after that, I got kicked by another laser and died at the same time. I void, and I guess that's what soft locked the game. But I didn't really understand what happened.
Oh, it was a soft lock.
I guess because I had no control and the sound was still going.
I've seen that happen in a few places. I mean, I had that with Moldorm. I got knocked back off the ledge and got put right into the barrier. So yeah, I mean, I didn't realize the soft lock was the reason that happened. That's a really unfortunate way to end the run because you look like you were doing a really good run.
I was not doing the best run I can because I took two bottle and stuff. But well, I wanted to do it safely to almost finish the run. So I wasn't about to quit, but I can't go anymore. I'm just after Hagen 1, so it's just too rough to do everything. So.
Well, for what it's worth, though, I mean, those safeties were paying off. It makes a lot of sense to take them. You know, I mean, you were going to have a completed run if it weren't for that soft lock.
Yeah, I would have finished the run even if I died like 3 times on Ultra Roll. Didn't matter to me, but. Yeah, I just can't.
Yeah, no worries. I definitely understand. It's got to be a very frustrating thing to have happen in Turtle Rock of all places. You're an hour and a half in.
Because I'm not even mad at my run. I died on I think I died on Elmsor once.
Yes, there was a Helmasaur death.
And that's all. I've done a pretty nice blind fight.
Yeah, Helmasaur is a pretty tough boss. He's a bully in NMG.
Yeah, a big bully.
I took that one pretty slow.
And yeah, I was really happy about some bosses because I've done like, I think it's Cold Stare, I've done it like really good. No damage. Yeah, so that was really perfect. To me, at least. But yeah.
I had a pretty fun half-heart Cold Stare battle.
Good lord.
I did have one quick question for SuperPlayer. How about that bonk strat that you did in the bottom row in Meyer?
That was pretty nice.
Yeah, I was thinking, okay, every single fireballs are chasing me, so I want to avoid them at all. So I was okay. Let's try this, and it worked.
Yeah, you were caught in between 2 fire snakes and a spark, and that bonk you did there to avoid all 3 of them was absolutely fantastic.
Maybe that's the best move of all the run.
I'll have to catch that.
It was definitely fast thinking.
I think Correct did clip that, so I can find it just right here. I can send it to you. So okay. I'm sending in.
I think somebody in
Off
chat
topics?
clipped that as well too. So
Yeah,
if you want to take a look.
It's on the off-topic Discord.
Excellent. We'll definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, that's the clip someone. I think it's correct that done that clip.
Nice. Well, I just want to give an extra GG to both the runners. Anything else that you guys want to say about the run?
Well, that was an alright run. I look forward to my next couple of races.
Yeah, speaking of that, this should be
Probably
your first race for each of you, right?
Yeah.
Next week I have a run. I think it's on my birthday, so that's gonna be.
Well, hey, happy birthday in advance.
Thanks.
What about you, Taylor? You have your next one.
I hope I can finish the next run.
Tuesday is my next one against the top seed in my group, Bamboo Shadow.
There should be some pretty fun, exciting races here. Definitely appreciate you guys putting on the show for us. Definitely a very entertaining race to watch. We got to see a lot of different strategies. It was very interesting to see how you guys recovered from various missteps. So that was very entertaining to watch. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, something I can comment about the seed. Thinking back now, that's actually the first time I played a whole seed without using powder or mushroom, which is kind of, I guess, progress.
Yeah, it was awesome. GG.
Also, NMG, I was watching off high your run, but didn't you forget magic or something like that at some point for going to Misery Mire?
Forget magic?
No, the ether, I guess.
The medallion.
I don't think I forgot it now.
No, okay.
I think I just get it a little later than you do, I think.
Yeah, maybe that's yeah, maybe because you're doing Misery after Swamp.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's right. Both of those, like SuperPlayer, you end up grabbing the Ice Rod and Ether relatively early on. SuperNinTaylor, you took all of those pretty much right before you went to those respective dungeons.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Basically, I'm taking both of the upgrades at the same time because I don't want to forget it. So.
Well, if you're gonna go shopping, you might as well get everything in one cart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a legit strategy to get it earlier, because then if you just go straight to Mire from Swamp, you don't have to risk losing any hearts.
But I don't know what's faster, if Swamp
I think it's
first. I don't know.
It's,
I took the fruit bat route to learn the game, so maybe I'll try to update my route now. If I.
Yeah, well, you get silvers and gold sword, right?
Nope.
You don't?
No, I tried to don't took it. I've done it in my PB, I guess, but I wanted to try it without, so...
Okay, well, if you're not getting silvers or gold, then I think it's fastest to do Swamp first and then Mire.
Okay. But yeah, I wanted to try next without the golden sword, because I think it's 6 hits you have to deal with him, and that's why I took half magic, because it can be scary if you don't have it, if you miss shot, because the heads are moving.
Yeah, once Trinex, once he dodges one fire rod or ice rod shot, he's good chance he's gonna dodge a lot more in a row.
Yeah.
He's pretty troll when he does that.
I hate that does.
So well, I want to give extra shout outs to these runners here. GG to both of them. Please give these runners a follow. They both put on a fantastic show today. Thank you for the commentary, Eudaimonistic. There are some additional runs coming up here in the NMG tournament. We have coming up Louis versus Cransoon and Chex Human versus a Metatron. I believe that is 8 p.m. Eastern. With Greenham and Josh RTA on the commentary, so that's going to be a super hype game to watch. Then we have Buoni versus Lyra at 11 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys stick around, and like I said, give these runners a follow. Thanks for the restream, and also thank you for Speed Gaming for the host. And GG's again to both of the runners.
Thanks. See you later.
Yeah, see you guys.
Thanks again, guys. Elsewhere on the Speed Gaming family networks, you can also find currently running Super Mario Sunshine on Speed Gaming 3 currently. We should be coming over to a Final Fantasy 1 run at 7 p.m. on this channel. And we do still have some NMG running right now, looks like on Speed Gaming 1. So where we end up, I'm not exactly certain. But do you have any other things that you want to share? I want to say thanks to everybody, but that should be about it for me, Fricker.
Nope, that's it. It was a fantastic race, and like I said, GG's, and thank you for having me in the commentary.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, folks. Stay tuned.